evening, all of you. And thank you for joining us today for this very special webinar. And also a very special thanks to all our speakers today for agreeing to speak on this topic on such a short notice. This webinar has been organized by Money Life Foundation, and we are a 10-year-old nonprofit. And our primary goal is to spread financial literacy and help spread awareness about financial issues. Based on our discussion with our investors, we realized on the Telegram group that there are more than 480 investors. We realized there's a lot of confusion on the way forward. What should they do? Should they take arbitration? Should they approach the NSEs, IGRP, or what are the options available for them? So we're really thankful that we have speakers from the NSE here who are here to shed some light on what investors can do to get their hard-earned money back. And to guide us, we have with us today Ms. Nisha Subhash, who is the Senior VP of the Investor Service Cell, and Mr. Avinash Kharkar, who is the VP of the Western Regional Office, Ms. Dinash Shroff and Ms. Shanti Idnani, who is the Chief Manager from the Investor Service Cell. So before I invite our speakers to share, there are a few ground rules that all of us have to adhere to. We've kept all of you deliberately on mute during the session so that we can focus only on the speakers. For optimal viewing, I request all of you to keep the webinar on speaker view. This entire presentation is being recorded, and a video of this will be uploaded on our YouTube channel, Money Life TV. During the Q&A, if you wish to ask any questions, please use the raise hand buttons option, which is available in Zoom. And also please note, all your homes and backgrounds are also visible to us. So if you wish to protect your privacy and if you wish to keep it under wraps, then you can switch off your cameras. Ms. Nisha, over to you now.
Good evening, and thanks to Money Life for hosting this session. It gives us a forum where we can go back to people and tell about whatever services that we have for investors, and especially on account of the recent issues that we've had, where there have been questions and people had doubts about how do we take it forward. We would be happy to take forward the questions, etc., that you all have. So we will start out with we'll have a small session on how and what we do for investor services, or how we handle investor grievances at our end at NSE. Basically, it's a process which largely is driven by a regulator, and we work jointly with the exchanges and depositories to run this. So we will go and take you through this process, and after that we would be happy to take any questions that you all have with respect to issues that you all are facing. So I would like to have Dinaz would take you all through the process. She handles the investor grievances at the head office. So Dinaz, you could start the process.
Myself, Dinash Shroff. I work with National Stock Exchange in the Investor Service Cell at head office. I would like to take you all through the dispute resolution mechanism, what is offered at the what is available at the exchange end, to give you more clarity on what all we offer as in order to resolve the disputes of the investors with their broker. So, taking to the first thing, in the Investor Service Cell, there are two levels of dispute resolution mechanism which is available. One is a complaint, and the other is arbitration. The complaints which we receive against the members, in the complaints, the applicant is always the investor, and an investor can file a complaint against the broker. And in arbitration, being a quasi-judicial process, it can be filed by either of the parties if there is a dispute. So there are two resolution mechanisms. There are two levels of resolution mechanism which is available at the exchange. Nisha, you can take to the next slide. Here we are trying to give a brief idea. Sorry, previous slide, please. Yes. Here we are trying to explain that we have how do we take the complaints and how do we process the complaints. We have 24 centers, investor service centers. 5 are regional offices and 19 are pure ISE centers. Now the regional offices are monitoring the smaller centers in their regions, and all these centers handle investor complaints as well as arbitration proceedings. So we have dedicated teams which take care of the resolution process throughout the the exchange. And the thing is that we wanted to show the how many centers we have, and it is spread across the country. We can go to the next slide, Nisha. This is here we are trying to what we are trying to explain is that the investor complaints which are received by the exchange now by the exchange are against trading members and listed companies, but the focus of this presentation is totally on the trading member complaints. Now a complaint can be filed through the online portal of the exchange. It can be filed through the source portal, which is the online portal of SEBI. It can be filed by a physical letter or a physical documents by sending to the regional office of the exchange, and the same can be filed on the behalf of the investor by the officer there. The next point what we want to highlight is an investor can file the complaint at the nearest investor service center to their address. So if the address provided by the investor is say in somewhere in Pune, so we have a Pune investor service center, and you can file a complaint there itself. So the spread of the investor service center enables the investor to file the complaint nearest to their address. The website also provides the addresses of the regional centers as well as all the required information. We can go to the next slide, Nisha. As you can see from the website, we have the online, as I said, we have an online portal, which is Nice Plus, we call it. And it can be filed by clicking on the portal link. And it will take you to the page down, which is being shown. Here, an investor will have to create will have to register itself and create its login. From the login, you can file the complaint by selecting the member, the nature of the complaint. If you have any documents available, you can upload those documents, and you can put in your grievance as you would understand it and as you want it to be. Based on, and once you will click on submit, you will receive a number which will tell you that your complaint has been submitted, and this is the number. Similarly, the same kind of a portal is available with SEBI also, which is called Scores. And you can go onto the SEBI website. There is a link for Scores there. And if you click on that, you will get, you will need to register yourself, and based on your login, you can you can enter your complaint, and the same will be processed by SEBI officer and will be sent to the respective exchange to it belongs. We can go further. This is the list of the complaints which are handled by the exchange. Per se, if you have a complaint against the member who is not providing you your bills, your contract notes, or your quarterly statements or your annual statements, you can lodge a complaint to that effect with the exchange. The other is the non-receipt of funds and securities, which is if you have a payout which has to be received from the trading member and the same has not been received, or if you have given securities as margin and that is what you have not received, or as collateral. So those kind of complaints you can lodge here. Then there is the non-receipt of corporate money. Even if you have given the securities and the securities have returned back, but the corporate action which the security would have earned has not been returned or has not been provided, for that also you can file a complaint. The other area of nature of complaint which we undertake is auction value. If the auction value, or if the auction, in the case of the auction, the member has charged you more, or if the member has not given you proper closeout, you can file a complaint to that effect as well. Then the other complaints are in the nature of trades which have been executed without the permission, without the consent of the investor, and the other one pertains to the excess of brokerage, or the brokerage which has been charged by the broker is not as per the agreement between the broker and the investor, or it is charged beyond the limit of what SEBI has defined. And again, the non-receipt of credit balance as per the statement of account is similar to what I have said, that if it is the funds which are being paid or which are lying in the account of the investor have not been returned or refunded to the investor, in there is not reflecting into their bank accounts of the investor. So these are the types of complaints which are handled by the exchange and are catered. However, we would like to make a you may make a note of this. These are such complaints which are not handled by the exchange and which fall beyond the purview of the exchange. Such complaints which have already been filed under arbitration. So complaint resolution and arbitration. Arbitration is the next level to the complaint resolution. So if already a dispute is being heard and is being adjudicated at a higher level, then the same does not fall at this, is not adjudicated at this level. Further, the payment of funds and securities which have been given other than to the trading member. So, as the exchange would not have any control or any jurisdiction on the other party other than the trading member, such complaints may not be entertained, may not be taken up by the exchange. Complaints which is related to mental agony, harassment, notional loss, these are these will not cannot be the process of the complaint resolution may not be able to take these complaints further. The complaints were pertaining to the sub-broker or authorized person with the trading member pertaining to their private commercial dealings will also not fall within the purview of this framework. Further, the transactions which are in the nature of loan or financing will also not fall within the framework, which will, because such arrangements are not allowed and not permitted to be done. So these are not, this will not fall within the purview and the framework of the resolution mechanism offered at the exchange. And any other activities which are beyond the exchange regulations will not be, will not form a part of this framework. Okay, now we come to the actual process, how the complaint, up till now we have learned what all complaints can be taken and not taken and how a complaint can be taken. Now we come to what happens once the complaint is filed. Now here we, what is the actual process? How does it move? So the complaint is first analyzed by the officer who has received the complaint. The officer will go through the documentation and the details provided by the investor and will register a complaint, and a confirmation mail and SMS will go to the investor informing that your complaint has been registered and this is the complaint number, and you shall quote this number at every point of time. This complaint will be then taken up with the trading member. The trading member will be given time to provide his response to the complaint and put his part of his defense in the reply. The response received from the trading member will be further analyzed by the officer, and the same will be simultaneously forwarded to the investor for its views and for its confirmation. If the member has adequately addressed the issue, and we will inform the investor and seek confirmation from the investor. But if investor is unhappy with the reply or is not agreeing to the reply, then we'll try to mediate and we'll try to attempt to resolve the matter, which is amicable resolution. So we'll try to hold a meeting through teleconference and bring both the parties on the same platform to discuss the matter and arrive at a solution. If the parties agree to a amicable settlement and agree to resolve the issue, then for us the matter will be resolved after the parties what they have agreed to are have complied with and provide the confirmation. Am I audible?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. We can hear you.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Now, if the complaint, if the investor is unhappy and is not ready for the resolution, or the trading member is, both the parties are not ready for a mutual resolution, then we consider this complaint as not resolved, and the same will be referred to the grievance redressal committee, that is the GRC panel. We can go to the next slide, Nisha. Here is the process where GRC members GRC members are independent professional individuals. Sorry.
No, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Are individuals with professional individuals who are from the industry, from the securities market industry, and who are not in full-time employment. This is from the point of view that they are able to give their services and make themselves available at and devote their time towards this process. So the GRC member is appointed based on the value of the complaint. If the complaint value is less than 25 lakhs, then a sole member is appointed. If it is if the value of the complaint is more than 25 lakhs, then a panel of 3 GRC members is appointed. The GRC members are provided with all the documentation and all the supportings which has been submitted by the parties during the first phase. GRC member will provide the date and time for the meeting to be held, and the same will be confirmed with the parties, and a meeting will be arranged. GRC member shall hear the parties and try to reconcile the matter with them on a mutual settlement basis. But if the parties are not agreeable to a mutual settlement, then the GRC member has the authority to pass an order whereby, according to him, whatever his judgment on the case will pass, whether the case is admissible in favor of investor or is not admissible. So based on the admissibility provided by the GRC member in the order, the exchange is required to take further action of implementation of the order. Now, the implementation of the order would mean, am I audible or is there an issue?
No, we can hear you, ma'am.
Okay, no, I was getting the message that your audio. Okay.
No, I think that must be an issue at their end. We can hear you.
Okay. So based on the admissibility of the amount specified in the GRC order, the deposit of the member is to be blocked to that effect. The member further, if he wants to challenge the GRC order, has to intimate the exchange that I would like to challenge the order, and can file for arbitration to that effect. So that is how the GRC process is then concluded. And now we move to the next level of dispute resolution, which is arbitration. Arbitration, as I have told you, it's a quasi-judicial process, and it can be filed by either of the parties. It can be trading member against investor. It can be trading investor against trading member. Even if the GRC order, which is in favor of investor, but investor is not happy with the amount allotted in the order, may still file for arbitration also, and it need not be limited to trading member filing against the investor. Further, the arbitration mechanism is having since the arbitration mechanism has a panel of arbitrators, and as per the SEBI guidelines, the panel of arbitrators appointed across exchanges are pulled together to form a common pool of arbitrators for the particular region. So arbitrators across the exchanges are pulled together for each region to form an arbitration panel. And the panel of the arbitrators is made available on the exchange website. For everybody to for all the parties to see the panel of the arbitrators available for the region. The panel details are also provided on the website. Further, the arbitration mechanism by itself has an appeal mechanism. So if the arbitration award is not acceptable or a party is aggrieved by the arbitration award, the same can be challenged within the exchange mechanism at the appellate arbitration level. So this is the brief guideline for what is arbitration, what is the mechanism available at the exchange. We'll go further how one can file for arbitration. Arbitration again requires certain formal forms to be filled in, and also requires a panel of arbitrators. So each party will have to provide the choice of their arbitrators preferred to adjudicate the matter. So the links and the forms are available on the exchange website as shown in the slide. These are available under Invest, and if you go under Invest, you will find arbitration as a main point, and if you click over there, you will find all these details over there, which will aid you to file for arbitration. One point which I want to highlight is arbitration can be filed by an investor to the nearest investor service center of the address provided in their KYC. So if you are currently located at Mumbai, but your KYC address happens to be in Delhi, then the arbitration mechanism and the arbitration can be availed at Delhi only. It cannot be availed at Mumbai. If you want to avail it at Mumbai, you need to change or update your address at the in the KYC of the member. So this is one point which I wanted to highlight. We can go to the next slide, Nisha. Hello. Hello.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. We can hear you.
Just a minute. I'm having, it's not moving. Hold on. It's not moving. I'm having trouble. Yeah.
Okay. If we go through the process as highlighted, how the arbitration mechanism works. The arbitration always has an applicant and a respondent. The applicant is the person who has filed for the arbitration. So if the arbitration has been filed at the exchange, there are arbitration forms and there is a fee requirement. So for an investor, for a claim value up to 10 lakhs is exempted from paying fees. The arbitration, at the stage of arbitration, the fees are collected from both the parties, in applicant as well as respondent. But if the value of the claim being up to 10 lakhs, the investor is exempt from paying the fees, and exchange shall bear the cost on behalf of the investor in the arbitration stage. So the arbitration application is received by the exchange, and if the application happens to be complete, the same is then forwarded to the respondent. The respondent is given time to file its response and submit his form of respondent and provide his choice of arbitrators. Based on the details provided by the applicant and the respondent, the case is entered in the CAP system, which is a common arbitrator appointment system which is being used across exchanges for the appointment of arbitrators. So here the exchange nor the parties are involved while the arbitrator is appointed for the case. The arbitrator is appointed for the case, and from here onwards, the arbitrator then takes the proceedings further. Exchange provides all the administrative support to the process of arbitration, but here the proceedings are conducted by the arbitrator. The arbitrator will provide for the hearing date as well as the timing. The same will be conveyed to the parties and to make themselves available for arbitration process for the hearing. The SMS is also sent to the parties 1 day prior to the arbitration hearing, so that they are reminded that they have a hearing tomorrow and they need to be make themselves available for the hearing. Based on the hearings conducted and the documentation and the oral submissions made by the parties, the arbitrator passes an award. Now this award can be in favor of investor, it may not be in favor of investor, it can be in favor of trading member as well. So based on the award passed, if the award is in favor of investor and the exchange is required to debit the trading member's account to the effect of the award which is passed in favor of investor. So whatever is the amount passed in the award, the same will be required to be debited from the trading member's account to the effect. If the parties are aggrieved by the arbitration award, they may file for appellate, and the appellate will also follow the same process as arbitration. The only difference being in the appellate from arbitration is that appellate matters are always adjudicated by a panel of arbitrators, which is 3. Whereas in arbitration, it is again based on the value of the claim. If the value of the claim being less than 25 lakhs, then there is a sole arbitrator. If more than 25 lakhs, then there is a panel of arbitrators in the arbitration stage as well. The other difference being between the arbitration and appellate is that at the arbitration stage, the fees are taken from both the parties. But whichever party wins the matter, that is the award is in favor of whichever party, the fees collected from that party is refunded, and whichever party loses the matter has to bear the cost. Whereas the appellate has to, in the appellate mechanism, the fees are to be borne by the party who is filing for appeal. So again, the appellate matter is, again the arbitrators are appointed, the hearing is conducted, and the award is passed. Here again, the award, as the arbitration already said, is a quasi-judicial process. So if the award passed and any party is aggrieved by the award, can file under section 34 in the court. So at this exchange level, the process of arbitration comes to an end with the appellate award. This is an important slide from an investor's perspective. As the trading member has various levels to challenge one order to the next and to the next, similarly, how do we aid the smaller investors in also putting up the fight with the trading members? So there is an interim relief which is being given by the exchange to the investors. If the investor happens to get an GRC order in their favor, and the value of the GRC order is up to 20 lakhs, and trading member has provided an intent to go for arbitration, the investor is eligible to get 50% or 2 lakhs, whichever is less, as an interim relief to take up his matter with the trading member at the next level. The next option which is available is between the stage of arbitration and appellate. Even after arbitration, the trading member wants to file for appellate, the investor is eligible to get 50% or 3 lakhs, whichever is less. And the next level being the appellate to court, the investor is again eligible to get 75% or 5 lakhs, whichever is less. But having this as a facility and the functionality, there is one cap that if an investor is having multiple accounts with multiple trading members and all these disputes being in the same year, then the maximum interim relief that can be given at a financial year basis to an investor is limited to 10 lakhs. Okay, now we come to the next slide, which is talking about the recent SEBI SOP circular, which provides for the standard operating procedure for cases of trading member and clearing member which are leading to default. So here SEBI has provided for the triggers which can be considered that a trading member or a clearing member is leading towards a default. It could be shortage of funds and securities to the extent of 10 crores. They have defined a value there. Then there can be a trading member or clearing member who has failed in its to meet its settlement obligation to the clearing corporation or to the CC, to the clearing member. Further, there is this important point of a sudden increase in the number of investor complaints against the trading member or a clearing member for non-payment of funds or securities. So if in this nature of complaints suddenly we experience a huge flow of complaints against the same trading member, then that can be considered as a trigger for the member which can be considered as leading towards default. So if a member falls under this category, then SEBI has identified a series of actions which are required to be taken by the exchange, or whichever identifies these triggers and in a time-bound manner. These actions include conduction of inspection on immediate basis. Then there can be a disablement considering that the trading member is leading towards default. So in order to curb any further damage, there will be disablement, freezing of demat account, and intimation to other exchanges to take to see what all defaults if a trading member or clearing member is making, or have they received the complaints, or what all collateral and deposits are available with them. They too need to freeze them, informing depositories, clearing corporation, forensic audit, and regulatory proceedings. So regulatory proceedings is the legal style proceedings which are being conducted against the member or which we identify as leading towards default. Now the circular also provides for one guideline which is related to investor service, which says that if a member has been identified to be falling or categorized as leading towards default, then if the action of disablement or show cause has already been initiated against the member, then no further GRC proceedings or arbitration proceedings can be conducted against this member for the complaints. Now this is mainly from the point of view which we would like to discuss is that this is from the point of view that the assets of the member available with the exchange are limited, but the complaints, if the complaints value exceed the resources or the deposits available with the exchange of the member, then exchange will not be able to cater to all the complainants in a fair and equitable manner. So if we continue to hold these meetings and continue to hold our proceedings as per the normal process, then there will be a handful of investors, or maybe say first 4 or 5 people will get their amounts, and the rest will not be able to get the equal treatment. They being the client, they are also clients of the same member, but are just because some have filed a day prior to them will get a benefit out of it is not what exchange would want to do with the investors, and would want to protect the investors and give equal opportunity to all for resolution of complaints. The next would be that since the regulatory proceedings are on, so if the regulatory proceedings will be concluded as per the rules, regulations, bylaws of the exchange, and the decision of the regulatory proceedings will be known, and the further action would be taken against the member. So here we have briefly described and explained what is the process which is available at the exchange, and how exchange proceeds with the resolution process. These are the email addresses on which one can get in touch with us in case of any further queries, or in case of any issues or any details you would like to address to us, and you would like a reply to it.
Thank you, Dinaz. I think I'll start with a few questions. I don't know whether you're going to answer them, or is it going to be your whole team that's going to do it?
Yeah, we'll all take it as it comes to it.
Okay. So I think the first question that needs clarity based on what we are seeing in the chat. I'm sure all of you are monitoring what kind of questions are being asked in the chat, right? So there are 2 or 3 things over here. One is that it doesn't make sense now to file for arbitration. File only the nice complaints, and the exchange will take them all together later and look at some kind of prorated distribution. Depends on what you collect from the broker. Am I right in understanding that?
Yeah, so to some extent, filing of complaints will give a sense of what is the value that we're talking about, where people have concerns. And then this will also help us eventually, if a default is announced and the broker is declared a default or is expelled, then the next process is again, of course, about filing of claims. So that also helps us to know that the people whom we need to go back to say that you need to now file formal claims, which of course are handled by the IPF.
So they will have to follow another procedure. You all will just collect the nice complaints just now. Once he is declared a defaulter, they'll have to file again.
We'll write back to them. Yeah, so we will write back to them, telling them once the proceedings are over. See, that's what. So the other thing that you're saying, that as and when now, if you're able to recover assets from the broker, so we will also be able to know whom we can go about settling. Where we are able to get the assets, we can go about settling it. But if, to some extent, if that is done, that's great. Beyond that, we will then have to go ahead with the default proceedings, and then the claims filing that would happen.
And either way, it will be prorated and equal for everybody based on the amount of money lost, or what is it?
See, so typically, and what happens is, typically if we have to do that, we would start out by, looking at the smaller investors. If there are smaller investors, we will take care of those people, and then that's how it will go. And when it comes to the claim processing, again, as there is again a whole policy that we have, basically about, again, there's a policy that will be followed for honoring the claims.
Wonderful. So you have 2 kinds of money now. One is whatever the broker may have, maybe a small amount, maybe owes 1,000 crores and you have just 100 crores or less.
Yeah.
And then you have the investor protection fund. So would you explain a little bit about what happens and how much will come from the broker's own funds to investors in terms of return of the money, and what can possibly come from the investor?
Right now, frankly, we will not be able to tell you. We do not.
I'm not asking you for amounts. I'm asking for the process.
See, so the process is, even today, our teams are working and we are trying to get and whatever the broker himself is able to get back from the assets that he has and what he is able to liquidate and get back. So once he gets that, then, then we will look at the complaints that have been filed with us. So when the complaints are filed, again, we will try and see that, the first thing will always be the protection of the smaller investors, that you have smaller investors who, filed for low value complaints. They would be the ones who would, be taken care of. And then, so that way we would keep going back. And as, the example that you're giving, that if it's 1,000 crore total complaint, but if you're not, you're able to recover only 100. So, obviously that 100 first we will, as and when we can keep taking care of the investors, keep paying them off, we will do that. And then once we reach a, dead end where if at all that's it, that he's able to get back, then we need to initiate the other proceedings.
which is the investor protection fund.
Yeah, as in it's more the default that he gets declared a defaulter, and if, then we go forward that.
And what happens if NSE is made a party in the court case that's going on in the civil court? So you will have to follow whatever is the court order?
No, so I didn't get the question. So basically, see, right now, even NSE we have initiated disciplinary action against the broker. We've initiated that. We will take it towards logical conclusion, and see what is happening. SAT has given us a timeline of up to 14th of October to have a hearing again, with the broker, where he's supposed to come back. He's supposed to have responded to a call, so that response we yet to get. So we have, October is again when he will come back. We will have a hearing, and then we'll see how that goes forward.
Okay. Arvind, you want to take forward other questions?
Yes, ma'am. So we have a couple of questions that we've received. So one of them is, will these be restricted only to shares, or will debentures and mutual funds also fall into the purview of this?
Look, so when the point is, whatever he has done, whatever the clients have given to the brokers in terms of either the margin, or they have done trading for those where he's bought and sold through the, so if you're talking about mutual fund and debentures, has he given those as what? Has he kept them with them as a collateral, or what? Is that what you're saying?
I think he's not specified it, but if you could mention keeping mutual funds as a collateral, then maybe that could help.
So that's what. So we'll have to see each of these cases. I think, see every individual case that he's given. So we will have to see in each of the cases what he's given for, what it got used for. So I think every individual case has to be seen. He can anyways file a complaint with us. Let him file that complaint has to be filed with us, and accordingly we'll take it forward.
So Tisha, I noticed that all of you can also see some of the questions. Now, a lot of them are personals. Are there some questions there that you would like to take up first before we allow people who have raised their hands to answer them? Or should we choose and go ahead?
Just a minute. So someone has asked whether exchange can provide trade details done on the NSE. So of course, wherever people want details, our team would be supporting them. We would be giving them trade details as well.
Who do they write to? Because people have written and not got answers, and this is very key to them.
They'll have to write again to the ISC cell itself, wherever they file the complaints, and the email addresses that we've given to you. You all can write to those email addresses and seek the trade details from us. Someone has asked, if I have 6 different accounts, can I have a power of attorney for all accounts to check one email? One email ID, it can, if you have different accounts with different brokers, you wouldn't be expected to have multiple numbers.
Okay, Nisha, one question is not related to Anugrah, but equally important, which is this broker Modex. Now, I heard today that the broker has finally been declared a defaulter. And a lot of people say that over 200 complaints have been registered and there are no answers from the NSE. So I guess you'll have some idea today where it's going forward, right? Because I think that broker has been declared a defaulter today.
Yeah, yesterday we have declared him a defaulter. So even with Modex also, to some extent, wherever we were able to do the recovery, a lot of clients were already settled. And now that he has been declared a defaulter, for all the balance complaints, we would be writing to the investors to lodge claims for whatever they have not been paid off. So that we will be going back and writing to them. And in any case, one other thing, when you say that we've not heard, see, for all complaints that come to us as a process, we will always write back to you. Now, as was explained by Dinaz, at a point where we find that the complaints far exceed the amount that we have, or the assets that we have for the broker, and that, to proceed with GRC would not be a fair thing to do, we write back to all the investors telling them that, we've got your complaint. However, we are not able to take forward the process. The broker is not responding to us. We cannot take it to the next level. And that because the disciplinary proceedings are on, once they get over, we will come back to you. So we always write back to them. I can understand that people would not be, that's obviously not enough for them. But, until we are able to, like now that you said that Modex has got declared a defaulter, for the people, for the complaints which have still not been paid off. So to a large extent, our team was working with Modex, trying to see if we could get as much assets from him as possible, trying to see if we can, how many investors we'll be able to pay off, and whatever's then left, then is, when the default is declared, now we will, of course, write back to them, asking them to lodge claims.
Arvind, you want to take some raised hands?
Yeah, I'll do that. But before that, I think a lot of other questions that we've been receiving in the comments is about the time they'll get their money back. So what I wanted to ask was, is there a particular timeline, for this whole process, or?
Arvind, frankly, we cannot give you a timeline right now, because as I said, first is, we are working, we are trying to see how much we can recover from the broker, what comes to us. Eventually, then the other proceedings are on. Once, the default proceedings are on. So those proceedings, it depends, we don't know. So legally, if, he again comes out, if there are some, they bring about some kind of a stall on the process. So that proceeding, depending upon when that gets over, is when the next step will start. So we cannot, as of today, say that, it will take us 3 months or 6 months, because that is dependent upon a lot of other processes that have to get completed before we start the next process of, asking them to either, where we'll be able to tell them that how we'll be able to pay you off.
Okay, thank you. So I think we'll take questions from the audience also now. Mr. Deven Moody, can you please unmute yourself and share your question?
I would like to know regarding Investors Protection Fund. Now, some of the people have told me that there is a fund which is, if my collection, whatever is outstanding is below 25 lakhs, I am secured. So I don't know whether I am secured or not.
So see, look, so 25 lakhs is the maximum compensation that the IPFT pays to an investor. Now, that is the maximum that the IPFT pays. But again, when the claims are lodged, there is a process. We will, going by the rules and regulations and the DC policy that is there to see whether it satisfies all that. Then we will decide that yes, to this extent we can give you. So, we'll be able to, this kind of claim will be satisfied that way. So each case would be different. So I cannot tell you that, this will be given, or, because if it is less than 25 lakh, flatly it will be given. No, there is a policy that is involved. We go by the SEBI regulations, SEBI circulars, and our DC policy, the defaulter committee policy that is there in place for processing of those claims. Once that is satisfied, the claims would be passed. You're on mute.
I'm sorry, sir. I'm really sorry. I won't be able to give you another chance because there are many people in the comment and also hands raised. So we're going to have to move on to the next one. Mr. Parindu Shah, can you please unmute yourself?
Yeah, I was only asking for this, my 6 accounts, 6 accounts if I have, and if they're like KYC, as per the KYC, if all my accounts have different email IDs and different phone numbers, then it would be very difficult for me to commute now with NSE now in future. So how do I go about that?
So are you asking that we've said that you need to have different, see, typically, when we go and do our inspections, what our team also, our endeavor is to ensure that, it's not that the broker or the AP is trying to put his own mobile number or email address so that the client does not get the trade alerts. They do not get the monthly balances, SMSs, emails. So our endeavor is that the email addresses and that has to be right. So where we find sometimes that the same mobile number or same email address has been taken, unless the broker proves to us that these are related entities. If they are related, if there is a relationship between the same them, then we do not insist that they need to have different numbers. But that relationship, of course, has to be there. Otherwise, how do we know that they're all being mapped to one AP and only the AP is getting the alerts or the mails? So that is the reason our teams will typically say that no, if it is wrongly mapped to one number, there is a problem. But if the broker is able to show us that no, that these are related entities, then we do not insist on you having different mobile numbers or SMS, email addresses. Sorry.
Thank you for that. Mr. Bhavin Shah, can you please unmute yourself?
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Ma'am, thank you for the session. My question would be the margins that are lying in Anugrah account, but as per last statement, they were long been shown. Suppose in my account, there were 3 lakh rupees positive margin, but the last statement that I received, it shows negative 50,000. And now in between, there were no trades. So how to go about those things?
We have to look at, so we'll have to look at your ledger and then your DMAT statement to see, you know, if you filed your complaint, because if you're saying that you've not traded, but securities you had given to them his margin, then in which case you would be trading with him regularly, right? So you'll have to accordingly look at it. But if he has moved out, you know, if you had given him a power of attorney and he moved out, then probably see if at all, if it was moved out from your account when you were not trading, then that is some, you know, you'll have to look at that, because you should have also got an alert from depositories telling you that shares are moved out from your account. And if you're not trading, then that is some question probably you should raise with the broker that, you know, I'm not using those shares then, and if they moved out from my account, what are you doing with them? Any, Avinash, you want to add anything to that? I think, or...
That's it, Nisha. There is one more question which is there. Om Shri Sai can be part of the investor protection fund. So investor protection fund can be given for the broker only. Om Shri Sai may not be covered in the part of investor protection fund.
Another question that I wanted to ask is this, that some investors say that they have still been able to transfer shares which they can see in their depository account, and they're able to move it to another broker. Now, some of these investors were direct investors with Anugrah. Some were part of the derivatives advisory service, which I don't know what's the legality of that. But why is it that some are able to see their shares and they're able to transfer them and get them, because that's got a value, while some others have found their shares have gone away? Now, that seems a little unfair when in the overall scheme of things, NSE is working very hard to ensure that everybody is treated equally, right? Can you clarify this a little bit?
Ma'am, see, because for every case we'll have to see, because we do not know that if the, you know, there were trades happening on a particular client's account and his shares were taken and they were used and those shares are placed as collateral. So each of these cases will have to be looked at differently. We will not be able to give a generic response to say that, you know, some of them have got moved out, or they went to the clearing member and was sold. You know, every case and what kind of trading was happening in the account. So,
just to clarify, see, what I'm saying is that some people have invested as late as July and August, okay? Not a single trade done for them. And they go there and see that their accounts are wiped out. There is nothing over there. While there are some who are lucky, who still see mutual funds and shares sitting in their account and are able to transfer them and recover money. So while there's a process going on at the NSE, there are some who are still lucky, who are able to see their shares and get them, while everybody else is put in a common pool and have no recourse because there are no shares. So I'm wondering why and how this is happening, because if at all, then is it just going to be a lottery that your shares are remaining and some people are unlucky and they've been in a pool account and have been sold off by the clearing member? How does it work? Because that's going on even today when this broker's account has been sort of frozen. People are still able to transfer shares as of today.
No, so today, if people are able to transfer, so that has to happen with the help of the depository, or if the broker is able to give them a DIS slip and he's able to, where they can transfer it to another DP, another depository participant. But so that has to, you know, so depositories have to support them to be able to do the transfer from from the Anugrah depository DP account to the other DP account. But the other part that you're saying that, you know, why some have it is frankly something is why some shares are there and some people are not finding it is something that we will have to see in the sense what was happening, what kind of activity was happening on their account, why their shares were taken for the purpose either of collateral or, you know, was there some kind of activity on their account, or as you're saying, if there were some accounts who recently given And if the shares were moved out of their accounts, but there was no activity, then how come, was it, if they've lately given it, what did they give it to them for the purpose of margin and they intended to trade, but the trades didn't happen? That is a question, because if they gave them the shares and they saw that they got a debit on their DP statement, Demat account, but those were not used and there were no trades, then did they raise this with the broker that, why have you taken my shares, but I'm not trading?
They're not getting answers from the broker.
Yeah, so because immediately if I have to give, I've opened an account now and given to you, and if I see a debit, typically the depositories also send you SMSs when your account gets debited, and shares move out of your account. In that case, they would know that shares have moved out. But if they're seeing that they have not asked the broker to do any transactions for them, or they've not kept any shares as collateral with them, then in that case, that should have been, immediately if you're doing, and if you recently opened the account, that's all the more questionable. But if he has taken it, so the other thing is that yes, he's clearly taken it.
Sorry, the suspicion is that investors have been shown a different set of shares, and they don't know what happened at the exchange and what the broker has been telling them month on month, because he's been paying them something. So I think almost every investor has one question, which is, share something with us. We want to know what happened in the exchange, which shares were pledged, whose shares were pledged, or if you're doing an audit, what is that audit throwing up? Because they don't even know how to fight further, whether to go to a court or what to do. Because, at the end of the day, many of them are not even going to get 25 lakhs. They have to have other avenues, and they need help from NSE, at least to get information and data. So is there a forensic audit? Can they figure out, were there two sets of books? What was the broker telling them? Can that be compared with what was told to the exchange? Can they get information about their own trading from the exchange, which will be authentic and stamped, and say, okay, this is what he did in the exchange?
So, ma'am, to the extent of the trades that have taken place on your account, of course, it is a duty to give them the activity that we've seen on their UCC. That has to be given. We will support even when people come with complaints or with claims. That is one portion where we have to give them, because that is the most, as you say, it's the most authentic activity, they can get, other than if what the broker has been claiming to them. So that, of course, will be given to them. But other than that, if they've been, the other part is, yes, we are also still trying to get information, as he's talking about the clearing member and what was given to him and what he has sold off. So that is something that is still not, we are also working on it now.
Someone here says, I represent 156 people. What is the corpus with NSE? And we assume that assets of 50 crore and the scam is 800 crore. Is there any ballpark figure that you can provide on what is the extent of assets? But I think some of them also are getting some assets from the court. And I don't think it's more than 30, 40 crores. Would you have any sense of what are the assets a broker would have?
Right now, I would not be able to give you a number. The only thing is, from that High Court order, I think 58 crores was the number that came out. And but as of now, there is no number that I can say that this is the number we're expecting. And the problem that, as you're saying, the investors have faced, that is something even we've had challenges trying to get, because, this double whatever books that he was maintaining has also been a big challenge for us when we were inspecting, or even, when our forensic audit has been going on.
Okay, we'll take a couple of questions from the audience also. Mrs. Sunny Shah, can you please unmute yourself and share your question?
Yeah, good evening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. So my case is where I have already registered the companies at Nice Plus and Scores in respect of Anugrah, and the complaint is regarding the non-receipt of margin shares. Now, what information we've been getting is that the custodian or the clearing member, that is Edelweiss, has blatantly and without checking, has sold the shares of the investors and those who are not having any outstanding obligations, and they have not encashed the bank guarantee. Now at Nice Plus, we can only what I have understood is I can only place a complaint against the trading member. But now, how do I link it up to the clearing member? Because there is either the clearing member has colluded, or the clearing member is negligent by selling third-party assets to set off the liabilities of the trading member, and that is not allowed under the contract law itself. So, I mean, how do we take it forward? Because a clearing member could be a part, and that same clearing member is also connected in other matters also, such as VRIs. So, I mean, how do we move forward if you want to have a complaint against the clearing member?
See, if on our system, particularly if you were to try to, because your relationship as an investor is with the trading member. So, you file the complaint against the trading member, and of course, we'll take it further from there. But frankly, on our platform, for you to directly file a complaint against him, he may, I'm not even sure that he will come back, and because, you do not have a direct that kind of an agreement or a relationship with him. But yes, we on our part are trying and seeing, what we can do to see what were the numbers and, what were the debit balances and against what against those, what has he gone and sold off. But otherwise, Mr. Shah, there are a lot of other options available. Of course, there is, beyond our also, there are other options available, which of course, the law of the land is there, and, you can, of course, directly proceed against him. But on our forum, typically it will be us, we are seeking data. We are now trying to see what it was, and that, if he has wrongly sold off against no debit balances, that is something we will be looking at and see how we'll take it from there.
Mr. Rahul, can you please unmute yourself and share your question?
Yeah. Very good evening, everyone. Thanks for giving me a chance to talk. See, my question is regarding Fairwealth. See, ma'am, what has happened last year, 3rd of October, Fairwealth. I'll just tell some chronology. Please give me 1 minute.
Sir, I'm really sorry, but we're going to have to keep you very crisp because we have a lot of other questions. So please.
I'll shortly complete it. See, last year, 3rd of October, Fairwealth was suspended. 14 January 2020, he was declared as a defaulter. Then 3 months time was given to everyone, that is 14th of April. Due to pandemic, we are just increasing the timeline. Now we have given the final time as the 31st of October. Why are we increasing the timeline? That is the first thing. And after this, once the 31st October is over, how much time we are expecting from NSE to or IPF to give us compensation and other things? That's it. Thank you.
So, Mr. Rahul, I take your point, and I understand that, yes, you waited a long time. But if you were to look at the flip side now, what has also been happening is for Fairwealth, even at the month of Feb, there was this bunch of investors who told us that, you need to extend it. At that point of time, we actually put out another notice and said that, yes, we will extend it, and you can file it even until 28th of August. Now, during pandemic, we've also got a whole lot of requests from brokers where people are saying we are finding it difficult. So see, while we've also been trying to support them to say that you can go online and file your claims, because there is a facility for filing claims online, but there are a lot of people who are not tech savvy and who are still comfortable filing physically. And because in the initial period of, April, May, and maybe to some extent in June also, where the lockdown was still extending, even our offices were not open. But, from June onwards, of course, our offices at least started accepting the claims. And we have been telling people to file online claims as well. But there has been a lot of requests from people. We've actually gone on extending it because there have been mails that have come to us directly where people have written to SEBI, and then SEBI in turn has said that we have to do it. So we have been doing it, but so that is one aspect of it. The other aspect has also been that, yes, on account of the pandemic, we've also had some kind of a slowdown in our processing. So that has, because you got impacted where we had to do the processing. So that should happen. And while I take your point that, yes, because there was where people had asked us to extend it, hence we had gone and extended up to October. But I think hopefully we should be able to complete this at the earliest. And I appreciate your patience, but give us some more time and we should be able to, process the claims of Fairwealth at the earliest.
Thank you. Ms. Ruchika, can you please unmute yourself? Again, the request is to please keep your questions really precise.
So I had 4 accounts in the family account with another broker through Teji Mandi. And they used to give fraudulent reports where they showed a profit from like every month, and we realized that they were making losses from Jan. So can I complain to NSE on the basis, and they were making payouts. So will NSE come? And also one more thing is they made an email ID created by them and they were accessing it throughout. and they impersonated us and they were sending out emails and they sent contract notes on that email ID. So my question now is, will NSE take all of this into consideration? I have screenshots of the Yada IP address, but this is under the purview of the cybersecurity thing. So should I include this in my complaint, and also their wrong misreporting on the basis of which I kept continuing, and later I realized in March that they actually were into losses?
So, Ruchika, frankly, it's actually a lesson to all of us that we really need to be more careful when it comes to, how we handle our funds and securities. And also the fact that if he said that he was doing transactions on your account, so you would be aware, we keep doing a lot of campaigning. We keep, whatever transactions happen, we send them on a daily basis. There's an email that goes to them. There's an SMS that goes to the clients. On a monthly basis, we're sending out details for people to know that this is what is lying with your brokers. But now in this case, if you've given it to a Teji Mandi, and you're saying if he has, impersonated you, I think the forum for you, I think would be, it's more a fraud where you will really need to take it up, file a complaint against him. But, if you're filing a complaint, you filed a complaint with us, we will have to take it forward to see what kind of trading has happened on your account, what has he done, and that's how we will take forward. But if he has taken money from you and giving you fixed returns, something I'm not sure how much, to what extent those will be taken care of.
Okay. So Miss Nina Jamdade, can you please unmute yourself?
Good evening, everyone. My question would be just simple, but now I have complained in NICE, but next step is that filing complaint in arbitration, which they are not accepting, I think. I mean, they are giving it back. What would be the reason? And also, for filing arbitration, should we go with lawyer or we can do it ourselves? Thank you.
So, Ms. Jamdade, I think if you went through the presentation that Dinaz ran, we did say that, once a broker, our SOP has got triggered, we do not take cases forward for GRC or accept arbitration. See, the reason is that, if we were to do an arbitration, we will never be able to enforce the order. If there's an order in your favor, we will never be able to enforce it. You would have to still run behind the broker to say that, give me back my money. So that is the reason we do not take forward, that is the reason why even the SEBI SOP circular has said that once a broker has got disabled and default has got initiated, then in that case, arbitration is will not be conducted.
Really sorry, we're running out of time. So just one last question. Mr. Sandeepan, can you please unmute yourself?
Yeah. Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, we can hear you. Please.
Yeah. Nisha ma'am, the reason is the broker is not giving any statements to file with NIC Plus. So how do we go about? Because we don't have ledger statements, we don't have any more contracts. And what should be the claim amount? Because the earlier margin statements and ledger statements, they are completely different. So how do you launch a complaint?
So, Mr. Sandeepan, there is very simple. If you do not have anything from him, what you can do is you can build your own ledger. So you have your bank statements, you have your DMAT statements, and you can take the trades from the exchanges. We will give you your trades. You take the bank DMAT statement and you can actually build your own ledger. So you can tell us with respect to securities, this is what I had, this is what I gave to him. In respect of payments of funds, this is what I gave to him. These are my purchase or sale transactions that I did. That you can take again, as I said, from NSE. And then you can accordingly build your ledger, and that you can say is what your statement of account should be. Is that helpful? So that's what we do when a lot of people come to us for claims and where they've not got anything from the broker. They actually can build their own ledger themselves, depending upon all these three statements.
Thanks a lot for that. So now I would like to hand over to Sucheta ma'am to take it over.
Okay, just a line to say thank you so much to the NSE team for coming here at such short notice and for explaining things in such detail. The takeaways, as far as I can see, is don't panic about the arbitration thing. It is being done to be fair to everybody. So please all file a complaint with NICE so that it can be taken forward. The second part is that the Investor Protection Fund money when the broker is declared a defaulter, you will get a second notification and you will have to file a claim again. It's not going to happen automatically. NSE has very kindly offered to give you information on your trade. So the last question that Nisha has answered, that you build your own ledger, take information from the NSE. I think many people on the group were very worried about that. So you're going to get those answers from NSE, which is a big move forward. And thank you very much, NSE, for sharing that email ID. And I hope you can send it fast. As for the fraud aspect, I would say that, there are cases filed in the Bombay High Court. There is a possibility to file before the Securities Appellate Tribunal, because luckily Anugrah has gone there and the case is coming up on October 14th, so you can intervene. People need to think about that, and you need to go to the police and file a case of fraud when it comes to the kind of questions about Teji Mandi. Is that a fair representation, Nisha? Do you want any last word?
Yes, ma'am. I think you've covered.
Okay. Thank you so much. Very nice of you to join us, and this has been very, very useful to people. Thank you. Great.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.